Welcome to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
I'm Shannon Lawrence.
And I'm MB Partlow.
Quick content warning before we get started. This podcast may contain language and disturbing content, so enter at your own risk. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
We've been sitting here for an hour and a half.
Did you know that? I did not.
We had a lot to catch up on before we came on here.
We had a lot to catch up on. And yet, there was something I neglected to tell you.
Oh, no.
I had a shot the other night. A drink.
Oh.
That
can mean so many things.
She's looking at me. I'm like, no, I'm not doing random needle drugs with strangers.
Good.
And I was kind of, okay, so it sounds really gross, and it actually wasn't bad. It was called a peanut butter and jelly.
Oh, a shot. Yeah.
Yes, and it was peanut butter whiskey and grape Red Bull.
Ugh. I don't do the energy drink with the, I found I can't even do caffeine with alcohol. It's not good for me.
It's not good. I was like, all right, I can see where the young folk would be sucking these down. The Utes would be drinking. I mean, I'm like, I don't like whiskey. I don't like Red Bull, but I also had one called a green tea. The bartender puts it down and we're like, what is this? It's green tea. We're like, the fuck it is. He goes, well, no, it's a shot called green tea. I'm like, well, what the hell's in this?
I remember going to a bar when I was young and attractive and happening to be there when there was a bartender that was like, ooh, I'm going to keep giving you free, like, here's the neat thing I made up. Shots and drinks and shit. That was a good night. I'll tell you what. But I had the best shot and I've never been able to get it duplicated because it had some sort of butterscotch stuff, but it wasn't it wasn't like there's a slippery nipple and there's all these things it was different that they'd made up. It was so good. And I've never been able to replicate it because I don't know what was in it.
Did you ever have a cherry bomb? They used to take the maraschino cherries and dump out the juice and soak them in like 151.
Oh no, but I got moonshine with maraschino cherries in it, so similar.
And the bartender is so proud to present it to you.
Yeah.
Here, girls, these are on me. Back when
Frida
and I were young and cute. Frida's still cute, but anyway, and you're like, oh, maraschino cherry. You pick it up and you pop it in your mouth, and the guy's looking at you just like he expects you to be all happy, and you're thinking, this has been soaked in kerosene and it tastes like hell.
I bought that moonshine because my husband loves maraschino cherries. I love maraschino cherries. There's no maraschino left in that shit when you pull it out of moonshine.
How long ago did you buy these?
Oh, this was a while back.
Oh, because there was a thing on TikTok.
When they first started being it.
Mama Tot tried those. She made, we're like, what's his name? Brandon Ferris eating a spider. I just showed somebody that too, and we just laughed.
I know that one I showed everybody. Y'all, look it up on YouTube.
Brandon Ferris eating a spider.
Did you see the Try Guys drama?
Yeah, well, I had to be alerted to it. I did eventually see it, but
I went and looked up because like, wait, what's happening?
Nikki's like, did you hear about the Try Guys? And I'm like, huh? That is always, huh?
Yeah, because they have great videos, you guys. But
they do.
Did you see their video where the three addressed it?
Yes.
Okay.
I watched most of that one. I did watch the whole thing because I felt like they started kind of repeating themselves. And
they did, but then you did miss the emotions.
I did.
Well, not Eugene's. He was fucking pissed the whole time.
Yeah, he was.
I was like, Eugene is me. Like, if that would have been me. I cannot hide it if I'm that angry. So, for anybody who doesn't know, first of all, the Try Guys, such a fun group of guys. They've been doing this for ages. They started on BuzzFeed. They would try things. Like, one that sticks out to me is they all learned to do drag.
Yes.
That was a good episode. Or they would try out women's Halloween costumes.
Sexy
hamburger.
And the first one I ever saw, one of the earliest ones I think that they did, was they were on a car trip and they were trying different kinds of beef jerky.
That's funny because I was way late into it. So I'd been watching it for a while because they didn't start doing that try food things until later.
It wasn't one of the ones like, now they do, like Keith Haberman, they'll do, Keith eats the whole menu at Pizza Hut and he will sample every freaking menu item at Pizza Hut. And I'm like, why does he not weigh 400 pounds and how is he not throwing up at the end of the video.
Right?
But he makes it hilarious.
Of course. And that's the thing, is they're super funny no matter what they do. And they have this great dynamic.
Yes.
And one of them, Ned, he has made his entire character revolve around the fact that he's happily married.
Yes. He's Mr. Married. He's Mr. In Love.
And then he was Mr. Dad first.
He's Mr. Dad.
And that was his whole thing. And he cheated on her. Two children
now.
And he cheated on her with a staffer, somebody below him.
A subordinate.
Yes. And that's the big bad. And so he has been removed from the Try Guys, who are now the TRI guys instead of the TRY guys, really. But yeah, they put out a statement because they're like, there are things that we cannot address because there are legalities, but they pulled in HR experts. They did everything they're supposed to do.
They
pulled in an attorney, and they're being very careful because they need to be able to continue on. And now they're editing him out of videos they'd already prepared so that they can still release them.
And they did say you are going to see some videos that he is still in because there's some things we are contractually obligated.
Yes, because it's like,
for the 4. And so they're like, you know, we are already losing money, but we can't afford to lose all the money.
Which is understandable.
Yeah.
I thought their statements were pretty good. I mean, like you said, it was some repetition, but man, did you see when...
honest.
Who's the little guy? What's the little guy's name? Eugene's my favorite.
Zach.
And Keith is Zach. He got very emotional and choked up and stuff if you watch the full thing. But Eugene was just like on the level of just on the verge of exploding that entire time. You could see it in his face. You could see it in the set of his entire body. You could hear it in his voice when he spoke. But again, I was like, man, he just embodies like everything. And I was watching all that while I was stressed out about work stuff. And I was like, he's me right now. Yeah. So yeah, that was
And Ned
crazy.
has just like disappeared.
Yeah.
He was my least favorite Try Guy.
Yeah. Like I said, Eugene's always been my favorite, which was sad because for a while he wasn't in a lot of videos. Like he was doing something else.
He had other stuff. Well, did you hear of the additional douchebaggery?
No.
So Ned went to Harvard.
Okay.
He's always talking with Ponson about what is Harvard or Yale. I honestly can't remember which one. So apparently last weekend, I don't know how long ago that will be when this airs. A few weeks ago. A bunch of his buddies work at SNL. So they did a skit. They did a takeoff on that very video we were just talking about.
Are you shitting me?
Nope.
So they mocked his...
They mocked the Try Guys, not Ned. They're like, oh, so he had a little side piece. Who cares? Because it was Ned's buddies writing it.
Oh, that's gross.
Isn't it?
Wow. Okay. Well,
I haven't watched the skit.
He's dead to me now. He wasn't really dead to me before. I was like, that was bad. That's his private business outside of that. But
yes,
mocking that, not okay.
No, not even a little bit.
Oh, man. But I was like, I haven't watched their videos in a while just because they don't come up anymore. I don't know. I never see anything. Algorithms on Facebook are stupid.
They are. So a friend of mine who doesn't live in the Springs anymore, he and his wife went on a trip. And I liked their photos. I will never like your photos, anybody who knows me ever again, because that's all I saw for 3 weeks. Repeated all of their vacation photos. I love to see people's vacation photos. I've been seeing the same thing
over and over again from like, if I like something on somebody's page,
I'm just happy you took pictures of fall foliage because now I'm just like... It's pretty. I like it. I don't need to see the same photos 10 times.
Yeah, we got to go. So that was the one little break I had. We went up to our cabin. Only the second time I made it this summer.
I know.
Still salty. And we have a side-by-side. It can pull. So it has a flatbed. And then there's like 3 seats in the front. And a side-by-side for people. It's kind of like a mix between a golf cart and ATV type thing. But it's basically a little truck. And it can pull the logs that we need to pull because entire trees went down on our property, right? And it has a hitch and everything so that you can pull things with it. And because we have to take down all the beetle kill on over 20 acres so that we don't burn up in a terrible fire. So we took that out because there's supposed to be trails up there. we found one trail and didn't go on it because we found it pretty late. So I don't know where the network of trails actually is, but we went on all these roads we hadn't been on. And we just drove around looking at the foliage. So that was nice. Yeah. It was quite fun.
We're looking, actually, by the time this airs, we will have gotten back from, but we are making a trip to Arkansas, and we arranged it so on the way out, we're going to have an extra day so that we're going down through the Ozarks to see the foliage.
The foliage will still be changing there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So.
It actually, we might even be a little bit early for it, so.
Okay. I know, I was thinking about that. I was like, here I feel like I missed everything. I didn't get to go on one hike with all the fall stuff. This is my favorite time of year. It's why I'm salty. Like the fall, not just Halloween stuff. The fall. And I was so busy September and October at my part-time job that I didn't get to go out and do anything or be outside. And if I don't get outside on a regular basis, I start turning into a bit of a ogre. So I need it for my mental health to be outside. So this week I will be getting outside somewhere.
Good.
But the problem is, I mean, it gets so cold so fast here. I'm surprised we haven't had a snow yet. We frequently get a light snow at the end of September.
Yeah, because I'm seeing it pop up on, what is it? History on Facebook?
Yes.
Memories.
Yes.
Memories on Facebook. And I'm like, oh, look, last year it snowed. And 4 years ago,
yeah, video of like it snowing in our pool in September.
Yes.
I had pop up. And so, yeah, we haven't gotten that snow yet. Here at the lower elevations, I'll put in quotes because we're at like 6,500 feet right now. But
knock wood, allergies have gotten a little bit better.
They have gotten better. I can't wait until I can stop using the nasal spray and just go back to the tablet for the year round. But
oh, God.
This is the time of year where it's like blood encrusted in my nose from having done the allergy spray for months.
I just know that at any moment now, Joe's going to turn to me and go, can we please shut the bedroom window now?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, no.
Jeffrey's still trying to sit on the back. It's because it's cold and it's been nice during the day. So like even up to like 76 was the warmest recently. Yeah. But
it's been
nice. High 60s, low 70s, which is really, I love that.
That's perfect.
But in the evening that we're in the desert also technically. And so it gets cold at night. And he tries to sit out there and he's like, he makes it like 30 minutes and he comes in and he's a popsicle.
Your son is sitting out today and it's cool today.
Yeah.
I noticed he does have a blanket.
No cold. Well, yeah.
He does have
That's the thing. And Jeff will take the blanket out. And we have a little propane heater, like space heater thingy for the outside, the patio heaters or whatever. So he hasn't really busted that out because he only busted out if I'm out there. And I'll go out there wrapped in the big Sherpa blanket and turn that on. And then we'll see how long I make it. But I need to do that one night this week just because, I mean, then it's done until it gets warm again. So
I will wrap the little blanket, the little throw over me and go, I'm sitting on the back patio.
But then today I got to wear, for the first time this season, my big sweater.
I love that sweater.
I know, I love it so much. I was going to buy a second one this year. In a different color.
What color?
Cream.
Ooh.
I can't wear white shirts because I don't wear a bra. And there is not a white shirt thick enough for like not show through.
That? Even?
So I feel a cream sweater would be great because then you wouldn't be able to see.
I can't wear white or cream because they make me look very corpse-like.
Oh.
With my skin tone, it no work.
Got you. I don't really have a color I can't wear. So I have a lucky skin tone, I guess.
I have gotten older and
I can wear yellow.
I give fewer fucks now.
Yeah.
So if I want to wear it, I have worked a little yellow into my wardrobe. Not my most flattering color. Fuck's not given.
But it's such a happy color.
It is. Sometimes you just need a tiny bit of yellow.
It's true. I need to get me a sunflower flower for my hair.
Yes.
I haven't found one that I liked yet. Because a lot of them just look super cheapy fakes.
Yes.
So I have to find a good one. All right.
So what are you going to talk about?
I'm going to do the Baker Butcher. And he's nasty. I will say I don't give like any horrible details. So I don't really need to give a trigger warning. I don't. Any more so than any other true crime story. There you go. All right. On June 13th, 1983, a 17-year-old sex worker named Cindy Paulson was picked up by a helpful stranger as she ran down 6th Avenue in Anchorage, Alaska, bloodied, barefoot, and handcuffed. Instead of having him take her to the police, she asked to be dropped off at a nearby inn where she tried to call her boyfriend. The man who picked her up went to work where he'd been headed and immediately phoned police to tell them that he'd picked up a girl in that condition, and he told them where he dropped her. So police went there, and turned out she'd taken a cab to another place, still handcuffed, by the way.
Okay, could you run down the street? It was handcuffed, because I'm thinking it wouldn't have, or I wouldn't.
Awkward, but if it's for your life, you sure can.
Okay, if it's for my life, probably, but I'm like, there would have been blood all over, because I would have fallen many times.
Well, maybe that's what some of the blood was from. Cindy told police that the man who had taken her had a stutter. She described him in his airplane. She detailed how he had offered her $200 for oral sex, but then when she got into his car, he had a gun. He took her to his house in Muldoon, Alaska, and raped and tortured her multiple times. Stated he chained her by the neck to a post and crawled onto a couch in view of her to take a nap. When he woke up again, he loaded her into the car and drove her to Merrill Field Airport. He told her he was going to take her out to his cabin in the Matanuska-Susitna Valley. He'd been dumb enough to leave her in the back seat while he loaded the plane, so though she'd been handcuffed, she hadn't been otherwise restrained, and she was able to climb over the seat and escape out the driver's side door. So it must have been a two-door. Like, they never went into why she had to climb over the seat.
It had to have been.
Or if you had child locks, right?
Oh, true.
So anyway, she gets out the driver's side of the vehicle. I feel like this girl was so smart. Again, she was 17 years old. She took her sneakers off before she left and left them in the back on the floorboards so she would have a way to prove she'd been in his car.
Oh my God.
Smart.
That's smart.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Damn, that's.
Right?
Not only smart, but it's like thinking like the police, thinking like.
Yes.
Building the case smart. 17.
Next detail is going to kill you. Oh. Her information led police to Robert Christian Hansen, a local baker who was fairly well respected in the community, though he'd had legal trouble, and we'll go into that. Hansen told police that he had picked her up, but that she'd tried to extort him for more money once she got in the car, and that now she was trying to get him in trouble because he wouldn't pay. So see that? There he goes, that proof that she was in the car. Yeah, she was in my car. I did pick up a prostitute. He was also given an alibi by a friend for the time he'd supposedly had her in his possession at his house. Police, because he was kind of known in the community, and he was just a baker, everybody kept saying. I was like, so bakers can't murder people? Have you seen, like, Meat Pie, Fleet Street?
Yeah,
like,
what is that?
Come on, people.
And
how many, like, cannibals were selling other people, people in their food? Anyway, so police let him go. They just dismiss her. She's just trying to get him in trouble. Stupid little sex worker. So, let's look at Hansen's background a bit up to this point, and then we'll catch back up. He was born February 15th, 1939 in Iowa to Danish immigrants. His father owned a bakery, which Hansen had to work in from an early age. Like, people kept belaboring that he worked long, hard hours there, even, young. Hansen had a problem with severe acne that left scars, and he had a stutter. He was also naturally left-handed, and his father forced him to use his right hand. He was apparently bullied and extremely angry that girls weren't interested in him. I was like, okay, so an incel? Cool. In addition, his father was very dominant. His mother, quote, easily subjugated is how he referred to her. And he said that he felt then that all women were meant to be subjugated. Okay. With no friends, he got into archery and then hunting. He enlisted in the Army Reserves in 1957, was discharged after a year. It didn't say dishonorably or anything like that. Just, he was in there for a year. And got married in 1960 to a woman younger than him, though I couldn't find the age difference. And I was like, so what, like a year? Like, who cares? Whatever. December 7th, 1960, he burned down a school bus garage. Out of revenge, this is a grown-ass married man, by the way, for his bad times that he'd had in that school.
Okay. So he can't let it go.
He was sentenced to 3 years at penitentiary, but served slightly less than a year. His wife divorced him while he was in prison. He was diagnosed with manic depression, aka bipolar, and schizophrenia. He was also said to have an infantile personality, is what the psychiatrist said, and obsession with revenge on anyone who had harmed or wronged him. I feel that part's important because he feels women have wronged him. Because they didn't like him. He was arrested and served short stints in jail for various petty thefts. He got remarried in 1963, had 2 children. They moved to Anchorage in 1967, and different reports said they had the kids, then moved to Anchorage. Some said, so I'm foggy on the details. He opened a bakery and became known as an esteemed local hunter, a bow hunter. setting various records.
That does take a bit of skill.
Yeah. Yeah, sadly it does. Then in 1971, he kidnapped a woman who was simply referred to as an unidentified housewife in most articles. I did find her name. I chose not to put it out because it seems to me she didn't want to be identified. He attempted to rape her, but did not succeed. But he did succeed in raping the sex worker he kidnapped after her, also who I will not name, same reason. His wife stood by him after this. She was a devout Christian and said that faith would get him through. She forced him to go to church with her, and that was her answer to it. Okay. As often happened with rape cases in that time period, he received a slap on the wrist. He was allowed to plead no contest to assault with a deadly weapon in the case of the housewife, and made a plea bargain that allowed the rape charges involving the sex worker to be entirely dropped, because fuck sex workers, right?
Yeah.
Right. For the assault with a deadly weapon, he was given 5 years in prison, but allowed out on work release after 6 months. He kidnapped 2 women.
Yep.
He attempted to rape one. I don't know what that, why it didn't happen. He raped the other one, 6 months. And he was released to a halfway house for the work program. In 1976, he was arrested again. So I want people bearing in mind
that this is the record.
That he had this record.
Yeah. Wow.
And they said, nah, he's a good guy in the community and we respect him. He's super quiet, they would say. Oh, he's just super mild-mannered. Okay. In 1976, he was arrested again, this time for larceny for the theft of a chainsaw. For this crime, he got the exact same sentence as he had for attempted rape.
6 months.
5 years. Right? But stealing a chainsaw had the same punishment. I was so pissy while researching this.
I do not blame you.
5 years, this time with a requirement for psychiatric treatment for his manic depression, because psychiatric treatment apparently was needed for stealing a fucking chainsaw, but not for rape and kidnapping.
Right.
Fuck the Alaskan legal system with a stolen chainsaw, is what I wrote here. The Alaskan Supreme Court thought his punishment was too steep, so they reduced his sentence and let him out, but I could not find what the time served was when they did it. But he appealed and he won. So by the time he assaulted Cindy Paulson in 1983, he had a record. And part of that record was in Anchorage, where he was living, yet they believed this asshat over the sex worker, because of course they did.
And she was 17.
Yep.
I'm sure that played into it.
Yep. That brings us back to the 80s. While police let Hansen go concerning Cindy, other sex workers had been going missing, and some women's bodies had turned up in the wilderness about 35 miles to the north of where they were. Way back on December 25th, 1971, a 17-year-old named Celia Beth Van Zanten was found, having died from exposure in the wilderness after escaping whoever had abducted her 3 days before. I found that one terribly sad, and then I told my husband, and he was like, but at least whoever was trying to kill her didn't get the satisfaction. Yes, she died. But.
Okay.
And I was like,
I feel the same way.
Yeah. On July 21st. Right? Like, oh, she didn't get caught. But she fucking died because it was Alaska. Okay. And that was in December in Alaska.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Poor girl. Anyway, on July 21st, 1980, an unidentified woman, still called only Eklutna Annie because of the road she was found on, was found buried in a shallow grave. Because of the shallowness of the grave, wild animals had been at the body and only portions were found. They were able to tell that she'd been stabbed in the back, so her torso was somewhat intact. Later that same month, 24-year-old Joanna Messina was found in a gravel pit. September 12, 1982, 23-year-old Sherry Morrow was found in yet another shallow grave on a riverbank. She had been shot in the back while nude and been redressed before her burial. This is going to be true for several of the women. Okay. There's no bullet holes in their clothing.
Gotcha.
And that's how they knew. September 2nd, 1983, 30-year-old Paula Golding was found in a manner similar to Sherry, also shot in the back, also nude at the time of her death. then redressed and buried. An Alaskan state trooper named Glenn Floth, I want to get his name right because he's the first fucking one to listen to anybody, had been investigating these bodies, and he felt the same man had killed them all and that there was a serial killer involved. He's putting this shit together. And when you consider that some of these were 35 miles away,
right?
You know, like, good for him for putting this shit together. He called in John Douglas. People may know that name from Mindhunter, FBI profiler. And this is when he was in the FBI doing this, to help profile the killer. Douglas said that the killer would have low self-esteem, a history of rejection by women, that he might have a stutter, and that he would have kept souvenirs. You know? The profile led Floth to Hansen. Which, good for him! Like, God damn it. Floth also believed Cindy Paulson.
Good.
That 17-year-old girl who had got away. He was able to use her testimony and the information from the FBI to get a warrant for Hansen's properties, including his plane, his cabin, his car, his house.
Good.
In his home, they found various trophies, mostly jewelry, his guns, which were stashed in his attic, and he had 17 guns, I think, and what articles referred to as an aeronautical chart. So, like a plane map, right? That had various, that's what we're going to call it, had various X's on it. So these X's would come to be very informative.
Oh.
Some shell casings had been found near at least one of the bodies, and it was those ballistic matches finally getting made that helped be evidence, because of course he's denying his crimes, right? But the evidence stacked up, became overwhelming, and so then he started saying, okay, I did it, but it was their fault. For whatever reason each time. It was, she did this to me, she did that. You know, we've heard it with other ones. He said he had started his attacks in about 1971. So during that time, he had been in court for things, other crimes. So when he was arrested for those, he was already actively murdering women. And not just murdering them, hunting them. This is why this guy stands out. He was charged in the murders of the 4 women I've mentioned, plus the rape of Cindy Paulson. His charges included homicide, kidnapping, assault, theft, and even insurance fraud and petty theft charges. The insurance fraud was, and I couldn't figure out, like, okay, for trophies he'd claimed had been stolen. So I'm like, is he talking hunting trophies?
He must.
Or trophies. But whatever his claim is, the insurance money from those stolen trophies was enough to buy his plane. Yeah, you see what I'm like, what trophies?
Oh,
like, what's the value?
Okay, so that makes me wonder if they're
and like
talking
his shooting
about
trophy, or sorry,
no,
both.
I'm thinking about the animal heads.
Right? No, that's what I said. Why I'm saying is it the hunting trophies?
Okay,
and
it's got to be.
But I confused that because he also had hunting trophies.
Right?
But yeah, so I think those must be a higher value if it's like a mounted animal head or something.
I'm guessing, depending on the size of the animal, there might be a market for that.
But a plane. That's blowing my mind here.
I don't know how much a plane costs. I'm guessing it's much more than I could afford.
And then when they were like, this is weird because all the trophies are here, when they went in to search his house, he was like, I found them in my backyard. That's what he told him. I found them in my backyard. I was like, he did it. This isn't even his cabin. It's not like they were lost at the cabin in his backyard, in quotes, which might have been however many acres. I don't know how many. No, just his suburban backyard. It's fine. He accepted a plea bargain, again, that involved pleading guilty, though, to 4 homicides and giving information on his victims, as well as leading authorities to the bodies, in exchange for going to a federal prison. I don't know why that's preferred.
A plea bargain. 4 murder charges is a plea bargain.
So part of it, and also squashing any press about his crimes, which may be why he's not more famous. He said, I do not want any out. That was part of the deal, that there would be nothing to the press. And so part of that, the reason for the plea bargain was so that his wife and children would not have to go through 17 murder trials. Yeah, I know.
I'm of mixed feelings there.
Yep. He was able to decipher his map and lead them to 17 bodies. There were several exes he refused to help them with for whatever reason. Maybe they were younger than the youngest admitted victim, which was 16. Because, again, we've seen that, like, they refuse... Yes, I raped all these women, but not that 12-year-old. Because they know that's a hard line.
Yep.
And so that's what I was wondering. He would not take them to what those exes represented.
Maybe they were men.
Maybe, but he didn't. There's no reports. It's believed that 2 of those marks belonged to 17-year-old Megan Siobhan Emmerich and 22-year-old Mary Kathleen Thill, who had been found in the region of those exes. And they went missing in 73 and 75. 12 of the women were recovered, identified, and returned to their families for proper burial. Based on the X's on his map, it's thought that his murder count totals 21. He had 3 maps with various X's, and so they think like the total is 21.
Oh.
And that he raped at least 30 women in addition to those he murdered, as by his own admission, there were women who convinced him they wouldn't go to the police and who he would then let go when he was done with them instead of hunting them. So...
what a peach.
There's a lot of women who didn't go in about it, but look what happened to Cindy when she did. So, and she had been tortured and was still handcuffed, and her shoes were in his fucking car. Okay. So he also confirmed that he was raping and torturing these women, then flying them to his cabin where he would make them strip naked, release them in the Arizona or Alaska wilderness, and hunt them down like animals. They would get a head start, and he would hunt them. So if you've ever seen one of those many movies that's based on that, guess where they got the idea?
Oh.
He said some of these hunts lasted for days. His weapons were a .223 caliber Ruger Mini 14 rifle and his hunting knife. I found it interesting that he was well known and had trophies or whatever for game hunting with a bow, but he didn't hunt the women with a bow.
Yeah, that is interesting.
I found that strange. So that first woman who appeared to have escaped her captor only to freeze to death, he refuses to take responsibility for. So this time she's assumed to be his first known victim, but there is no proof of that. But how many people were taking sex workers out into the woods and hunting them? Like, why else would she be in the middle of the wilderness when she was from Anchorage? Okay, so anyway, alleged victim. He also said that he started out just killing teenage girls of 16 to, and up into young adulthood, right? 16 to 20 before moving on to sex workers and exotic dancers because the housewife brought him up so much trouble, you know.
Well,
he learned like they always do when they get off scot-free for shit that he didn't get in trouble for the sex worker because nobody cared, but the housewife was problematic, and she wasn't even that problematic because he didn't get in that much trouble. No. But anyway, he learned. So then he went, okay, sex workers and exotic dancers it is.
It is, yeah.
He led authorities to the graves of 23-year-old Sue Luna, 19-year-old Robin Pelkey, 25-year-old Malay Larson, 22-year-old Teresa Watson, 24-year-old Angela Fettern, and 20-year-old Tamara Tammy Peterson. He also confessed to killing 22-year-old Andrea Fish Altieri and 24-year-old Roxanne Eastland, but neither of their bodies were ever recovered. Now, several of them he buried on the banks of a river, so in shallow graves again. That's where they were finding them because his favorite place it's like the Knik River or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so I assume they washed away or something. So,
well, they
didn't say
it. It sounds like they were very shallow graves.
Yes, and if he's hunting in like September, October, November, December, and like a lot of these were for their dates of disappearance are in Wikipedia. If anybody wants to look at that, so the ground would have been frozen.
Yeah, I was going to say if it was in the middle of winter, the ground would have been frozen.
And he's a pussy. So
lazy, shoddy workmanship. Right.
Finally, another body was found August 20th. Wow.
What?
I said 1095, but we're going to go with, I think it was 1985, honestly, so that's a really bizarre, I think it was about a year after he led them to the other bodies, I feel, from my memory, by a pilot who was testing out new tires. And she was attributed to him as well. She was 20-year-old Delynn Sugar Frey. Hansen was ultimately sentenced to 461 years of prison with zero possibility of parole. His second wife divorced him after his sentencing. Her name, his first wife's name, his children's names are out there. I don't think there's any good reason to pass those along. He died August 21st, 2014 of natural consequences at 75 years old, which struck me at least double the age of all but one of his victims.
Wow.
So my sources were Wikipedia and all that's interesting, honestly, because everything else was just a repeat of the same information over and over and over again. In the same wording, no less. So it's all that gets attribution.
Wow. Well, I'm going to lighten the mood a little with some pure mayhem. I haven't done one of these in a while. Because I like to do the stuff that's just, we have some serious mayhem. So, Julie d'Aubigny was born in 1673 in France. And her father trained court pages for a nobleman under King Louis XIV. In case you're curious, That's written as 1-4 with a TH, not the Roman numerals. Oh. Because I would have to sit here and mentally translate it in my head.
Every time.
Yeah. Although Louis is not a big part of the story, so it's been a while again since I've done this, so I'm going to do it. What was happening in 1673? I mean, really, for me to place something in history, I'm like, what else is going on at the same time? This one, because Catholicism does play into this story in a small way, the Test Act was enacted in England, which means Catholics weren't allowed to vote. They couldn't hold public office. They couldn't preach. They couldn't teach. They couldn't attend university or assemble for meetings. In North America, Joliet and Marquette were exploring the upper Mississippi and the Great Lakes. The Dutch Navy was beating the snot out of the Anglo-French Navy. That is a gross simplification. Yeah. But the Dutch, I mean, it went into, I was like, I didn't know the Dutch were so vicious.
I think I'm going to touch on them in the next episode.
Oh, wow. Also, Dutch warships captured New York, and the city was called New Orange for a year until it was recaptured.
Fun.
And in China, the revolt against the Ming Dynasty began.
Wow. That was a busy year.
It was a big year. I mean, that's the whole year. So we're just talking about Julie, because I feel certain that at some point I'm going to mispronounce Daubigny. So,
and just so you guys know, we looked it up on YouTube, and there was literally an entire video that is somebody pronouncing that and saying it over and over.
So if you want to know, it's a French name, obviously. It's d'Aubigny. And hoodles. While her father was training court pages, he was also training his daughter. So you kind of got to love a radical dad.
Yeah.
Kind of. Not really, but he was a master swordsman. He was a habitual gambler. He was a big drinker. So he taught his daughter well, and especially fencing, which she became proficient in and actually competed and beat men. Competed with and beat a lot of men. It's believed she started wearing men's clothes right around when she started fencing at age 12. Well, think about it.
Yeah.
Fencing in a skirt or fencing in pants.
Good times.
Yes. So in 1687, at the age of 14, Julie began an affair with her father's boss, Count d'Armagnac. It's really hard for me not to project current sensibilities onto them and ask if a 14-year-old actually has the ability to consensually participate in an affair with her father's employer. So it's a man of some power. We're going to skip on past that. I'm reporting the story as I found it, as it was told to me. So after her father died, she married a man named, I can't pronounce his first name, but his last name was de Maupin. And she became known eventually in the French tradition as La Maupin, Maupin. So instead of Mademoiselle, it was La.
Okay.
So shortly after the wedding, like some reports say the next morning, her husband was sent to an administrative job in the south of France, quite possibly as a tax collector, by the Count. And the Count kept Julie in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
What a surprise. So accounts differ as to whether the Count got tired of Julie and her wild ways, or she got tired or she became bored with d'Armagnac. In defiance of the Count, Julie took up with an assistant fencing master named Saran. So when police tried to arrest Saran for killing a man in an illegal duel, the couple fled toward Marseille. So they had to feed themselves while traveling. So they supported themselves by giving fencing exhibitions, singing in taverns, and at local fairs. And apparently they were good enough at both things that they were able to support themselves. During this time, so Julie is dressing as a man, but not disguising the fact that she's a woman. So they're at an exhibition. I don't know if it was at a fair or what, but a man in the crowd is sort of heckling them, and he refuses to believe that she's a woman because she's too good. So she took off her shirt to shut him up, which I gotta love.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the whole thing. Here's the whole reason why she interested me. This woman had balls. Or not. She had boobs. So when they arrived in Marseille, she joined the opera company. under her maiden name. And this was no mean feat. You didn't just walk in off the street, even then, and join the opera company. But she had a really good voice. While she was performing opera in Marseille, she came to the attention of a local merchant's daughter. The girl's parents were not pleased with the idea of their daughter consorting with another woman, opera singer or not. So they stole their daughter away and hid her in a convent. Well, Julie followed. And what she did was, and this is one of the things she's absolutely the most famous for. So she entered the convent as a postulant, which is someone who is asking for entry to a religious order before being accepted as a novitiate. So they couldn't just run away. No, they needed a plan. So Julie stole the body of a dead nun. Now, she did not kill, be clear, she did not kill the nun. The nun just died of natural causes or plague or whatever. Whatever. Plague would be natural causes back then. They had nothing to do with the nun's death, but they took the nun's body, placed it in the girlfriend's bed, and set the room on fire to cover up their escape.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's fucking ingenious.
Yeah. Doing in movies now, they're like, whoa, so clever. And you're like, nah, it's been done.
It's been done before. So this passionate affair ran its course in about 3 months. And after that, the girl returned to her family. And even though Julie wasn't with her, they went their separate ways. Julie was charged in absentia and as a man with kidnapping, body snatching, arson, and failing to appear before authorities. And she was sentenced to death by fire.
Jesus.
How
often? Okay, if she was sentenced as a man, how often were men burned?
That's a very good question.
I'm curious now.
I do not know. So on the road again and headed toward Paris, Julie once again supports herself by singing. In Villa Perdue, or V. Perdue, she met the young Count d'Albert. He mistook her for a man and challenged her to a duel. A doodle.
Oh my God.
She challenged him to a doodle. You draw cat, I'll draw dog.
Let's see who can draw. Oh, and then it's literally draw.
Okay. Starting again. He mistook her for a man and challenged her to a duel. And all throughout this, I'm just
That's just dull now.
Oh, it gets better. But I just have noticed that I've spelled duel with both an E and an A.
Throughout.
I'm like, I'm an idiot. It's been a long week. So, she won the duel. Of course she did. And he was wounded.
Ha!
So she nursed him back to health. And they became lovers.
He's like, that was fucking hot.
So it said that they briefly became lovers, although they remained lifelong friends. And I'm like, look at this. Staying friends with the ex. She was ahead of her time.
Yeah, she was. I never did.
I did.
I mean,
it's been so fucking long. They're like, who?
Yeah, we did date.
I'm still in touch with my high school boyfriend.
I'm married to one of mine.
Well. Okay, you win.
I win that one. I'm not in touch with the others.
I mean, we're not in constant contact, but yeah. Anyway, so her next-ish lover was a singer, Gabriel Vivant Thevenard. I probably butchered that. My apologies to anyone who speaks French. So he had a job at the Paris Opera, and he made his employment contingent upon her also getting a job singing at the opera. So, which they were like, all right, they gave in, they caved in. So she took the stage at the Paris Opera. She's only 17 years old now. All this has happened. Yeah, we're talking about apparently 17 is the magical age, and we all just go to shit after that. Yeah. They're brave, they're smart, they're daring. Anyway, while she didn't have a lot of professional experience at that point, she had a tremendous amount of natural talent. So she really did take the opera world by storm. She took singing lessons until her teacher... Oh, I was like, what the... Oh, the man teaching her was an alcoholic. And so she took lessons from him until he could no longer teach. She also caught the eye of society at large. She continued to wear men's clothes. She continued to duel and win. She continued taking both men and women as lovers. When a singer, Louis de Mesny, insulted the women of the opera, she beat him up. She just flat out whooped his ass.
I like her so much.
She continued to perform to much acclaim, including in approximately a half dozen roles that were written specifically for her. So I'm not going to go into all of this. I read a lot of it. I read some of it. It's about opera. If you are an opera aficionado, apparently there is a lot. That's where a lot of this comes from. That's where the best records are. She was a really well-known name in opera. And they're like, this is where to go if you really want her story. And I started reading it. I'm like, no, this is all about the operas she performed and who wrote the opera and what it was based on. And that is not my jam. Mm-mm. It's the fact that she was cross-dressing and sleeping with whoever she felt like and beating up mean dudes. That's why I like her. So at one point, she goes to a ball and kissed a woman on the dance floor. So unbeknownst to her, 3 different noblemen were trying to get the attention of this young woman. And she just waltzes in and kisses her. Oh, literally, it was a ball, so she might have actually waltzed. So infuriated by their own failure or her success, or both, all 3 challenged her to duels, and she beat all 3 of them in the same night.
Again, pussies.
Right? Unfortunately, dueling was against the law, so she had to flee the city.
It's just the whole, like, now it really, they don't challenge you to a duel, they just call you a bitch, right?
Yes.
But back then, they were like, I challenge you to a duel!
Yeah.
That's so lame.
But still.
She was more man than all of them.
Yes, she was.
Well.
She fled to Brussels and resumed her opera career there. She was so into what she was doing. During a suicide scene in one opera, she actually stabbed herself on stage. Not in an attempt to commit suicide, but for the realism of the blood. And while in Brussels, she became the mistress of the Elector of Bavaria. That is a politically, possibly religious title that I cannot explain.
Okay.
Because a lot of times when I come across stuff like that, I'm like, let me look this up. And so I don't know. It was very complicated.
Right?
And somebody out there is going, it's not complicated. It's da-da-da-da. If you know what it is.
Great for you.
Please let us know. So eventually she became too much for him to handle. I think the stabbing was one of the issues. So he offered her 40,000 francs to leave him. So she said, fuck you, left him, went back to Paris, but threw the money at his feet before she left. If you may remember, she had been wanted in Paris because of the dueling. So this was the second time. Somehow I missed the first one. This was the second time she got a pardon from the king.
Okay.
She must have had personality and charm to spare.
Well, clearly.
It did. And now in the opera, the piece that was about her singing, she did give, as was common in those days, the big opera stars, you would give a special command performance for the king, or there would be a garden party in high society and you would give performances there. So the king actually did know her. But yeah, his brother interceded and got her the pardon.
Okay, because that's the thing is, like, I found a lot of performers during these times because of the story I'll be doing next time. They actually tie in pretty closely. We could have paired it differently, but
we could have.
It brought a lot of power if you were a respected performer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Remember the lover and the longtime friend, Thevenard? I hope I'm even coming close. Who originally got her in with the Paris Opera. So he was still there when she comes back, and they resumed their tempestuous relationship. During one fight, so they're arguing, they're having a tiff, and they had a scene together on stage, and she bit his ear hard enough to draw blood, visibly draw blood. Don't
Julie
piss her
Tyson.
off. Yeah, don't piss this woman off. One scandal reported that she fell hard for another soprano at the opera who spurned her advances. And it said that she attempted suicide when her advances were rejected. I don't know that I believe that. Mm. She just doesn't...
She was too much a dynamo to be like... I feel like she would have just moved right on past that.
Yeah, or, dueled with someone and gotten it out of her system.
To challenge her to a duel.
So eventually, she took as her lover... Madame la Marquise de Florensac. Yeah. Again, make of that what you will. With whom she dwelt in such affection, they believed to be perfect. That was... I found that quote in a couple different places, and nobody ever said where the fuck it was from. So they had 2 years together, during which Julie lived quietly and happily with her. I mean, it really seemed she had found... Or she just got tired. But it seemed like she had found happiness and she was happy with this person and they settled down. But when Florensac passed away in 1705, Julie retired from the opera and took up residence in a convent. Here we are, back to the convent again. Mm-hmm. She died in 1707 at the age of 33.
Jesus.
Yeah, and it didn't say...
She did so much in that time.
She did so much between 14 and 17. But then in 33 years...
She just puts a lot of other people to shame.
Yes. It really... And it just... The whole... Especially for the time that she lived in. I mean, there were times when sexual identity was not such a big fat hairy deal. People were like, well, who cares?
Yeah, I just learned about pansy clubs last night from Queer for Fear.
What are pansy clubs?
Now I don't remember the era, but there was a time when people around, and I think it was around Hollywood and stuff, there were pansy clubs, and the people there who were performers and stuff were queer individuals, right? Mm-hmm. And they were some of the only places during Prohibition, there's the timing, that you could get alcohol. And it was one of these things where they'd perform and they'd interact with people. And so they were very out in that. And people were going there to drink and hang out with them. And it was, and for some it was like, you had the privilege of hanging, but otherwise it was, I just want some liquor. So anyway, I just found out about that.
I had not heard of those.
Because in one of the iterations of Dracula, a lot of the performers in it, including the main male love interest actor and stuff, mm-hmm. so probably a Harker type character, mm-hmm. He was a gay man, but a lot of the people in it, because they were right there and they all went to these places, so they cast a bunch of these people. So that particular was Bela Lugosi. Anyway, I don't remember because I was doing these topics while I was watching it. But yeah, interesting. Something I never heard of.
That's fascinating. But yeah, it's just, I mean, we talk about how hard it is. Right now, we talk about how hard it is for people perhaps of a certain age to come out. Mm-hmm. And this woman, first of all, she lived in an age when women didn't even have any rights.
Yeah.
It's not like they didn't have many. They didn't have any. They were really considered property. Mm-hmm. And first of all, her father, raised her, gave her all these advantages, teaching her not just how to fence. He also taught her languages and taught her how to read and write.
When a lot of people were going, why does a girl need to be educated?
Exactly.
Yeah. Actually, so he was
yes.
He was a pretty advanced guy.
So, and just the fact that she went out and made her way and lived her life. She lived it on her terms.
I could easily see her transplanted into the Wild West as one of those women that were doing that kind of thing and just fuck you, I am who I am. She would have been perfect. Just pick her up out of that bit of history mm-hmm. and plonk her down in this bit of history.
And what I would really love to see, I would love to see a movie made of her life. Mm-hmm. Now, apparently there have been a couple, but they've mostly, again, focused on the opera music. And I'm like, why? This is a swashbuckling action adventure romance with a female lead. Let's get on this, Hollywood.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right. Wow.
So... yeah, I seriously this week needed some fun mayhem.
Yeah.
It's been a week.
She's a good one. She makes me feel unaccomplished.
Well, yeah, there's that,
but that's okay. A lot of people do these days.
Some days it really doesn't take much.
No.
Some days just putting on a bra could intimidate me. My God, look, her shoes match her purse. It's over for me.
Look at her. She has eye makeup on. Go you. Okay, I wore eye makeup yesterday because I presented a 4-hour workshop, so there was makeup. Probably the lipstick was gone like 20 minutes in because I was drinking water, but who knows? I didn't look.
I did wear lipstick on Friday. I had like 4 different meetings on Friday, and I dressed nice. I put a belt on. I belted my outfit and wore lipstick.
I did. So I was dressed nice, and I had my blazer on, and then I always feel compelled at the end. I have to be like, "Look, it's Freddy Krueger on the inside," because it's a nice blazer outside.
It is, but the lighting
and then you're like,
bomb.
And it was perfect because there was horror comedy. I did a workshop in 3 parts. First one was comedy. Second one was horror. Third one was putting it all together and writing horror comedy. There you go. You have the information that you need. So each spot I had writing prompts, and then they would do that and they would share. And the last one, horror comedy. So one of them it was like Freddy and Jason sitting around a fire, and Freddy lifts up his hands and he's got marshmallows on his blades or whatever. And she's sitting there reading about them, and I'm all, and I flashed everybody else who was like sitting there listening, and then I showed her at the end. So it was fun.
Nice.
Yeah. Yay. So thank you everybody for tuning in.
Thank you very much.
Don't forget that you can buy us a book, not literally, at buymeacoffee.com/mmmayhem, where we have monthly goodies, and then you can just donate a little bit of money here or there to help with overhead. And
although I'm going to just say it, I'm a book slut. If you want to buy us books, feel free.
That's true. I don't know how you're going to get them to us.
And they will go on the to be read pile that could fill a
never-ending
small house.
To be read. I was good. I took the kids for their monthly Barnes & Noble visit for their incentives for doing... Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm like, what? I didn't do it.
Here it is.
Whatever it is, I didn't
Both
do
of my kids... My son is now lettered multiple times, so you get a pen each time.
Oh, yeah.
To add to your letter. And then my daughter's a sophomore, and she just lettered for this. So first of all, I get an email from the school. They never tell you what child it is when you have multiple children.
Yeah.
And so I get an email, and they're like, "Congratulations, your child has lettered." And I was like, "Great." And so I'm like, "But which one though?" So my son comes home, or he comes downstairs later, and I'm like, "Hey, so I got an email that one of you lettered. Was it you?" And he just rolls his eyes, walks to his backpack, pulls out the envelope, hands it to me. The pen is in there. He doesn't give a shit that he lettered for the 3rd time. And then I guess something happens, and then my daughter's like, "Oh, there's this." And it's her first letter.
Aww.
In high school. And I'm like, "Okay, well, we're proud of you. Like, you guys don't give a shit, but..."
Are either of them getting a letter jacket?
He's not. I don't know about her yet. Probably not. My kids don't care about any of the normal shit. That's why I was excited that one of them was going to homecoming, and then it didn't happen. And then I was like, it's like normal mom things. And I get that I'm not normal. I'm not a normal mom. So then I usually don't expect normal things. But then it was going to happen when I assumed it never was. And so it's like, well, all right, these things happen. Nobody gives a shit. And I just watch people on Facebook like constantly bragging about every little thing their kid does. And I'm like, my kids don't give a shit. Like, I'm going to post about it. Whatever. So anyway.
My child works with the mentally ill.
Right?
I think one does, so.
Yeah.
I'm like, and that's
not easy.
That is not an easy job. But let me tell you, that girl... And it's make a boundary like nobody's business.
Criminally mentally ill, isn't it?
She could teach classes on how to draw and maintain a boundary.
Love it.
So
perfect.
Which actually is something that some women need to be taught
a lot.
Apparently, sometimes even I need a little refresher on that.
Yeah.
Oops.
We got to move fully into our crone years, I guess, to really get there.
How much fucking further
she's doing
can I
it earlier. Really, both of yours are doing it earlier.
They are, but I'm like, what do you want me to do to be more crony? Lose my teeth? I'm like, I'm meeting all the requirements, and my children are grown. They're full grown ass adults.
I don't know. There's a magical age, I'm sure of it, where you just cease giving a shit.
Well, I have a friend whose mother finally said she was a crone, because she was very into the whole maiden mother crone thing. But I want to say she was like 78 before she... I'm like, I think I'm good with it. Although I probably...
There needs to be a maiden mother, third step, crone. I mean, there need to be a lot of other steps. But you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
I feel like crone is so much later now that there would have to be a third. Because mother only goes so far after a certain point.
That's true.
And we can have lives now.
So it's maiden, mother, what the fuck, crone.
Maiden, mother, warrior, crone.
Oh, I like that.
Let's make that happen.
Okay. That's a thing now.
And it's not going to be like fetch. We're going to make it happen.
On that note,
bye.
Talk to you next week. Bye. Thank you for listening to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
Find us on Facebook and Instagram or at our website, mysteriesmonstersmayhem.com.
Please like, rate, and review, follow, and share wherever your favorite podcasts are downloaded.
Thank you for listening and supporting our podcast. We'll be back next week with more shenanigans.